hababa, hababadagada, hababadadaba, hatabadagadaga, hadada.
We love dogs. Personally, don't think you can live without them. I love dogs so much. So I got to thinking, what happened to dogs in A Quiet Place? You know, the movie where everything gets killed that makes a frickin' sound? If you tell someone to act like a dog, one of the first things they're gonna do is stick their tongue out and pant loudly or bark. Dogs are known to bark. Domesticated dogs especially are just too loud and most likely would not survive in a quiet place situation. Their instinct is to be alert, not to be quiet. We have bred them specifically for that reason. Long ago, dogs were used for herding and protection and guarding. What good is a guard dog if it can't alert its family that something is nearby, something that could be a possible threat? For Pomeranians or even other lap dogs or toy dogs that are very small that can't guard very well in terms of the physical aspect, being able to take down a large threat, they're the ones that would bark the most and sometimes the loudest and most incessant. If the doorbell rings or the Pomeranians or small dogs hear somebody in the vicinity too close to the house, they will bark at everything. Unless you teach them at a young age to not bark so much. As you can imagine, this would be a problem, and unfortunately, our beloved pooches are probably one of the first animals that would get picked off by the Quiet Place monsters. The only breeds of dogs that would survive a situation like what happened in A Quiet Place or the Quiet Place monsters would be breeds of dogs that are naturally quiet. And then if those quiet breeds continue breeding with other quiet breeds of dogs, because they would be the ones that most likely would survive, so they'd only have each other, the puppies that are quiet would survive. The more wolf type or wolf-like dogs would dig dens and revert back to their wolf behavior. Dogs in the wild naturally find compartmentalized areas to give birth. They don't give birth wide out in the open. They usually find a soft area in a tunnel or a pipe under a car, someplace that's closed off and dark if they can help it to birth their puppies. And they probably instinctively do this because those areas muffle sound better. So if the puppies are crying, the rest of the world and potential predators can't hear them. Also, dogs would have to specialize in hunting quietly. And over time, I believe that these breeds of dogs would adapt to be quieter and over time probably lose the ability to bark altogether. Let's say the Quiet Place monsters, aka death angels, were to be alive for a long time on Earth. Let's say humans did not figure out because they were just totally stupid like they already were in the movie, and there weren't any fortunate families that knew sign language or had a deaf family member that discovered that they would use hearing aids or a certain frequency for monsters that primarily depend on their hearing to get around and locate people. I know. Over time, not only would the Quiet Place monsters adapt to their environment, but the animals that would survive would adapt to their environment with these new killers. Dogs would become prey animals, so they too would have to adapt to hear better, not just to avoid the Quiet Place monsters and know where they are in location to the dogs, but also to hunt prey. Their paw pads would have to be quieter, fluffier, and more mushy so that they can go over a lot of terrain and not make any noise. They would have to also learn to pant quietly or lose the ability to cool themselves down to pant altogether. It's possible that dogs would live in areas like jungles or places where there's a lot of ambient noise so that their presence does not stand out. Places like forests with a lot of trees. Trees are very good at absorbing sound, and even though the Quiet Place monsters have evolved on their world to hear extremely well when creatures are inside certain things, it's most likely rocks and hard surfaces, things that would vibrate sound very easily, like in a cave system or an area with a lot of rock and dirt. If there are a lot of trees spread out around the area, it's going to sound a lot differently than if the whole terrain was just rock. Maybe some dogs would even live underground in certain circumstances. Dogs would have to learn to stalk and ambush their prey so that the prey does not make too much noise trying to get away. Some breeds of dogs might even learn to climb so that when they kill their prey, they can bring their prey up to the tree and eat it, just like leopards do. But unfortunately, most domestic dogs would be dead. The sad part about it that many people don't think about it is it's not just domestic dogs that would have a hard time or less likely chance of surviving the Death Angel's invasion, but horses and other large domesticated hoofed animals who make a lot of noise when in distress and running away would also meet an ill fate. Creatures like pigs, equines, bovines, turkeys, goats, those creatures make a lot of noise, especially the domesticated versions, and eventually the Quiet Place monsters would find them. However, creatures like foxes would probably survive because they specialize in being quiet. They're like canine felines. They have the best of both worlds. Cats would also probably survive as well, meaning house cats. As for their behavioral changes, cats would have to fight quietly or find another way to square off for territory and females. Maybe the population would be low enough that they wouldn't have to fight as much. They would also have to stay quiet during mating. Most land animals that make noise would die. Deer are mostly quiet, but bucks do make a lot of noise when rutting and fighting for females. There are more does than bucks, so deer would probably be on the brink of extinction. Creatures like monkeys, rhinos, elephants, lions, gorillas, kangaroos, if the Death Angels get that far, would all meet their end because they depend solely on their voices and making noise to communicate and get around and just simply live. It is true that most land-based species simply make noise by them moving or emitting low-frequency noises that humans can't even hear, but maybe the Quiet Place monsters would, and they would be killed. This would prove a problem for food, because what about all those survivors? Surviving humans would have to adapt to eating a more plant-like diet, or a diet of fish, eating closer to what our ancestors used to, or find a way to take down birds and most aquatic animals. Because even if you were going to try and raise land animals for food, it's just too noisy. Even if the land animals don't make noise, you would still make a lot of noise just trying to take care of them, and them moving around. Frogs make a lot of noise. Some may initially die at the claws of the Quiet Place monsters, but over time, the Death Angels might think of them as ambient noise after a while, and learn the different species and know that this is not something that's a threat. Saying that, it is possible that the Death Angels keep a catalog of what noises are not threats, so they would learn over time that these creatures means non-threatening. You may be wondering, well, what about humans? Over time, could they see humans as not a threat? No, because like I said in a previous video, anything that has a big presence or moves around a lot, that they can touch, that they know are bodies that are there, they're gonna see it as a problem. For example, if I put you in a jungle all by yourself with no means to survive, you've never seen this place before, and you hear a whole bunch of sounds, just cacophonous noises in the backgrounds of grilling trills, you initially would go crazy not knowing what's making those noises. But after a while of you being there, a few days, and those same sounds play at certain times of the day and nothing ever comes of it, you know, oh, okay, maybe that's just the way this area sounds, or whatever is making those noises are not a threat. It's just part of the environment. But then you hear a noise, a very quiet noise, and then you hear a big presence right in front of you. Let's just say you can't see it. It's dark. You have no ability to see, but you can feel it there. You don't just hear it, you can feel it moving, and you can hear it closer to you. You're gonna freak out because you're not gonna know what it is. As far as you're concerned, it's better that you get to it before it gets to you. Not to mention, some of these things that you hear close to you try to kill you or attack. It's possible that's how the Death Angels see the world, and how they see humans and other animals that are very loud. It's very sad to think about. It's sad to know that out of all my animals, only one of my dogs will most likely survive. My Shiba Inu, who is very good at stealth and hunting small animals by stalking them like a cat, would probably survive because instead of barking and immediately chasing after something, I have seen her since she was 8 weeks old catch something with her eyes and lock onto its movement and then crouch down and start inching slowly just like a cat. I have never seen a dog do that except for a pointer. My Shiba barely barks, especially when she's outside. The only time that my Shiba would bark inside the house is when someone is randomly walking outside in the dark at 3 at night or 3 in the morning and she's looking out the window, or if someone that she didn't expect to come home comes in the house. Dogs like my Shiba Inu breed, who are more like dingoes, which is basically what a Shiba Inu is, it's a Japanese dingo, would most likely survive. Dogs that are also bred for hunting quietly would survive. The thing is, even in the wild, unless it's for an intimidation tactic and she's cornered, my Shiba probably wouldn't bark at all. And her barking is not even the traditional style of barking that we know domestic dogs sound like. Even then, if some domesticated breeds were to lose the ability to bark and go back to vocalizing, they may have to go completely silent and just do away with vocalizing altogether, or use mostly scent marking to communicate, as well as body language. Wolves are probably another type of canine that could survive, but the howling would give them away. They would quickly learn to be quiet after that. Bears would die as well. Bears are apex predators and they don't have any natural predators, so usually if you're in the wild, you'll hear if a bear is nearby. That won't fly with the Death Angels. So yeah, a lot of the animals, especially land animals, are gonna eat the dust. But you know what would survive and actually thrive in situations like this? Diseases and bacteria. With all the rotting bodies of the many animals the Quiet Place monsters would take down, this would breed a lot of bacteria and sickness, which would also further cull the population of land animals and even some aquatic animals. Truly, only the fittest would survive, and the Quiet Place monsters arriving on Earth would surely reset everything via natural selection and based on the ability to hear and stay as quiet as possible. Thanks so much for watching. This has been Ultiori. You ask, we answer.